Okay, wait, this is the end. Hold on. Stop. Cut. Okay. You're probably wondering how I got here, but let's start at the beginning. Bower Dad here, and welcome to the 10th episode of Why Did I Lose, the series where we analyze ranked losses in order to become better players. My opponent has a very unorthodox lead, Darmanitan and Meowstic. I decide to sleep powder with Venusaur because I figure, hey, I'm the fastest in the sun, I'm going to neutralize what I believe is the threat, and on top of it, Venusaur is going to dodge that Thunder Wave like a huge baller. We get the sleep on the Darmanitan, so this is looking to be an incredibly strong opening turn for us. I use Burning Jealousy with the Torkoal, tack on some damage because it's great, and then on the second turn, my goal is to get rid of that threat, what I perceive to be the threat, the Darmanitan. Earth Power and Body Press into that. Venusaur, unfortunately, does not get to dodge the Thunder Wave 2 turns in a row, and on top of it, the Darmanitan wakes up and immediately does Flare Blitz into my Venusaur, making him faint. Thankfully, the recoil on that Darmanitan and the Body Press is going to be enough to make this an even trade. It'll go down, and I'll decide to put in my Charizard. My opponent opens up the next leg of the game by bringing out a Pokemon I've never seen in a ranked battle ever, and that's Diggersby. I put in my Zacian, it gets its little boost. I'm thinking that Meowstic is going to try and do something to suppress Zacian. My guess is a Thunder Wave. I debate a little bit on who I'm attacking, but I do decide that I want to yawn the Diggersby, and I'm going to Sacred Sword into the Diggersby as well. They do Dynamax it. So I'm thinking I'm in a pretty good spot because this is going to get a yawn. However, the Meowstic does do Charm to Zacian, which is a lot more threatening than the Thunder Wave that I thought was going to be coming. Sacred Sword, still does a bunch of damage. Max Strike comes in, takes off a good chunk of Torkoal's health, but it does survive it, thankfully. It'll eat its berry, recover some of that health, and I get to yawn it. So now I'm thinking, great, I'm in an excellent spot. When the opposing Pokemon grows drowsy, we do the usual double protect, stall out that one last turn before they fall asleep. Zacian will protect. Torkoal will as well. The Meowstic is going to try and charm Zacian a second time, but it is going to get blocked. Then Diggersby does Max Lightning, and this is horrible. Good because it only does 15 damage. Bad because the electric terrain is set, and that actually prevents the Diggersby from falling asleep. What was great is now super awkward. Plot twist, this next turn is where the mistake happens. Now that the Diggersby has stopped itself from going to sleep, I'm in a really awkward spot. Like I said, I decide that I'm going to attempt to stay in and try and tack on more damage to the Diggersby. I just protected both of my Pokemon, so I gotta do something. Unfortunately, I submit to the idea that whatever Meowstic is going to do, it will succeed. Can't really stop it. They charm, attack goes down. So now Zacian is super weak, -3 on the attack. Torkoal is going to go down to this Max Strike, and that's what seals my fate, actually. I'll explain why later on in the game. Zacian will Behemoth Blade. It does a little bit of damage, but not a tremendous amount. Unfortunately, that's all the mileage I get out of it. Sunlight goes away. I will bring my Charizard in, I believe. Yep, Charizard's the only other one left. Charizard gets to come in, and Diggersby, the Dynamax on Diggersby will end right here. At this point, I've got 2 Pokemon left. I still haven't used my Dynamax, which seems really good, but it doesn't stop me from being kind of in this predicament, because at this point, my Zacian is not tremendously useful anymore, sadly. The G-Max animation will come out. I'm going to get Charizard in here, and Meowstic is going to do the thing that I thought it was going to do to Zacian in the very beginning. That's Thunder Wave. So now I'm paralyzed, which isn't a huge deal, but this Thunder Punch is. We know that Diggersby is packing a lightning move. Luckily, I have the Wakan Berry to weaken that damage, but I'm only going to get to do that just the one time. Zacian throws out a substitute to just really cheer for the fact that no one is going for him anyway. I'm going to max Airstream with Charizard. I figured that a Thunder Wave might be coming, so I want to sort of recuperate some of that speed. And then we see Chansey, and that's where things really start to fall apart. I decide that I'm going to Wildfire this Chansey, and that I'm going to try and finish off the Diggersby finally using a Sacred Sword. Conceivably, the Charizard could have done Max Guard in order to stop that Thunder Punch. Thankfully, it did survive. So I'm going to get the G-Max Wildfire. I'm going to get that chip damage over time, and the Diggersby is going to go down. But at this point, I'm left in a really horrible spot, and if you've played competitive Pokemon for any amount of time, you understand what's about to happen. Here's Chansey with the Minimize. Gonna raise its evasion, defense's evasion, and then it's just gonna pick you off when you can't hit it and you can't really do anything. So the next several minutes are going to be super frustrating. At this point, the game is basically already lost, but I'm gonna do the best I can to get paralyzed and not be able to do much. Chansey's gonna heal, and we go into the end sad part. At this point, I've got Charizard left, but unfortunately, it's not really going to get to do anything further. I will try to fling some attacks at the Chansey, but it doesn't really make a difference. The Behemoth Blade connects, which is awesome. Chansey's going to minimize, boost evasion, boost defenses, the stuff that I was just talking about. So this is a knockdown, drag out from here. Can't really do much. A cool function of Dynamax is that those attacks never miss. So even if Chansey were raising its evasion during Charizard's Dynamax, it wouldn't have made a difference. At this point, I become suspicious that Sacred Sword is hitting kind of a lot. As it turns out, the text of Sacred Sword, it says it ignores the opponent's stat changes when calculating damage. That includes the evasion. Sacred Sword actually ignores the evasion. So I will get to just click that over and over and over again, but it won't, unfortunately, make much of a difference. And Chansey is going to take out the Charizard right here. I won't make you sit through this entire thing because this is about 15 turns of just me clicking Sacred Sword over and over and over and over and over again in order to try and wrap this up. I feel like the Chansey player made a couple of really weird choices on what they were doing while they were stalling me out. I feel like they could have finished me off with stored power at any point, but they didn't. I had lots and lots of chances to hit with Sacred Sword. Now, one other thing that I want to point out, the game is lost by this point already. I am slightly bitter though, because if I had landed a critical hit with Sacred Sword at any point during this whole process, it probably would have ended the game. Now, normally, you don't really hope for critical hits. That's not really a good win con, but I did attack this Chansey like 25 times. It would have been nice. But we're coming up on the end here. Chansey is going to store power. Going to take the last of Zacian's health, and that'll close out this very sad, sad tale of defeat. All right, I know how much we all hate Chansey stall endgames and how much they fill us with rage, and we just want bad things to happen to the other person, but that's not why I lost. For the first time in this series, I'm chalking up the loss of this game to one very particular reason. And in order to expand upon that further, I want to look at the fifth turn number 5. Let me get this set up here. Is that we have my Zacian and my Torkoal against the Meowstic and the Diggersby. Now, I am in a position where the Zacian is already -1 attack, and the Diggersby is Dynamaxed, and I am basically pressing the go button. I just want to deal as much damage to this Diggersby as possible. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is I eat another charm from the Meowstic, so I end up at -3 attack, and the Torkoal gets obliterated by a max strike. Gets KO'd, I have to put in Charizard, and because of that, my Zacian is left with -3 attack, and now I have no way to swap it out, so it's stuck there at -3 attack, basically useless. What I should have done on this turn instead was pull Zacian out, put Charizard in, give Zacian that opportunity to refresh its attack in the late game in order to be far more useful than what it actually was. It feels like a risky play to put Charizard in the front like that on a switch, but if you recall what happened during the game, that slot only got a charm, and Charizard doesn't care about that. It only uses its special attack stat Torkoal would have still gotten smoked, but there was nothing we could really do about that. But this way, we get Zacian back in with refreshed stats, and it would have been ready to go for a much more effective endgame. That's a wrap for the 10th episode of my Why Did I Lose series. I hope y'all have had as much fun watching the videos as I've had making them. I originally set out to do this as a way to encourage people to not fall back on bad RNG for the reasons that they lost, and that it wasn't because of this crit, or wasn't because their opponent got lucky, or wasn't because of this, that, or the other thing. But my goal is to encourage people to take an honest look at the way that they play, and an honest look at the way that they make decisions in order to hopefully turn more losses into wins. If this series has been fun, fulfilling, educational for you, you could like the video, you could subscribe to the channel. Both of those things are super helpful to me. I would really appreciate it. Last but certainly not the least, if you would like to catch some of these games live, hopefully you can see some wins as well as some losses. I stream every Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. Central Time over at twitch.tv/BauerDad. And beyond that, I have some other social channels listed here if you would like to connect with me on those platforms as well. Until next time, I hope everyone has a fantastic rest of their week.